So, according to you, how important is it for a developer advocate to stay updated with the latest technology trends like AI, ChatGPT, and all?
Yes, it's definitely a fun job if you have passion for it. But I wouldn't say that it's always about traveling. So I traveled only once last year.
Can you please tell us about your journey, like from being a software engineer at Microsoft to becoming a developer advocate at Apprite? Like, what inspired you to transition into this role? Hello, dosto. This is Barkatul. Welcome to HackForCode. So, today with us, Haimantika Mitra. Hi, Haimantika. How are you doing?
Hi. Hi, Barkatul. I'm great. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing good. So, if you don't mind, can you please tell us about yourself? Like a quick introduction.
Absolutely, absolutely. So first, before introducing myself, I would say that it's an absolute pleasure being here, interacting with you and all the wonderful audience who will be hearing to me and about my experience and also about developer advocacy. But a little bit about me before we talk about all things developer advocacy and other fun things. So, hi, I'm Haimantika Mitra and I am a developer advocate at AppRight. I come from a city called Siliguri, which is towards the northeastern part of India. And before Applet, I used to work at Microsoft for a very brief time. But I would like to say that communities and everything that I do now as a job was my passion for a very long time, which is why you'll probably see me smiling throughout this podcast because I will be talking about something that I love the most. And also to speak a little bit about me other than my work. I love gardening. I love cooking as well. So if my family is hearing me say this, they'll probably be angry that why am I saying this while I do not cook very often at my home. But it's like I like cooking. I do cook good when I do, but it's very rare. But yeah, that's still my hobby even if it's rare. So yes, that's a bit about me, and I'm very happy, and it's always a pleasure to be here.
Thank you so much for your quick introduction. Absolutely, we are honored you have came here as our guest. So, thank you so much for that. Also, can you please tell us about your journey, like from being a software engineer at Microsoft to becoming a developer advocate at Apprite? Like, what inspired you to transition into this role? Uh,
Right. So, like I was also mentioning this in my introduction, that develop advocacy is something where my passion lies. And I didn't know about this while I started out in my college, or also when I was in my first or second year, or even third year of my college. I got to know about this role only towards 2020, which is towards the end of my pre-final year. And I started my upskilling journey both in tech skills and also soft skills. And I got to know and meet a lot of people and become friends with many people through communities. So a passion, grew in me that I want to work with tech, but on the side, I also want to help more people. And I also used to talk to a lot of developer advocates as at Microsoft because I was a part of Microsoft's student ambassador community, and that is when I saw that these people, they come with a lot of empathy. I love the way they talk and I love the way they work, and I got to know more about the job role. That is basically when every developer advocate who is right there in the Microsoft team and with whom I talked to has at least 1% of contribution to where I am today. So I guess that's where the passion grew. And while I was working at Microsoft, that was my dream company, but I realized that I'm not doing something that I really like. And just to correct a bit, so my role there was of a support engineer, and I was in the support team of Outlook and Exchange. And I realized it's not something that I'm meant for, not enjoying. So, there's a thin line between your dream job and your dream role. And I realized that my happiness lies in doing my dream role. So the decision to transition from Microsoft is a big company and a dream of many people, including mine, to April, which is a relatively smaller startup. Well, many people think that I have taken a big decision, but for me it was very easy decision because I was going towards my dreams. So yeah, that's basically how I transitioned from that role to this.
Inspiring, very inspiring. Yeah. So, as a developer advocate, what are your main responsibilities like, and how do you engage with the developer community? Please tell us this.
Sure. So the answer that I'll be giving now is very related to the company that I work to, because this is something that many of us fail to realize, even as professionals, that the role of a developer advocate or of a developer relation engineer, it might change from company to company. Like it changes from product to product as well. So I'll be explaining what I do in my role. So as a devel in general, we have three C's that we mostly focus on. First is code, then there is content, and then there is community. Since you asked the question about community, so at Apprite, our community is there in multiple channels, but our main channel is Discord. So we try and engage with the community, and since Apprite is an open source project and it's also an open source company, so everything that we do is very transparent to other developers, and we have a lot of contributors who contribute to our features, who help us improve Apprite for the better. And also at Apprite, our main foundation is our community and the contributors. Anybody in any form, even if somebody is joining our office hours, they are contributing to Apprite in some way or the other. So at almost at every point, whenever we can, we like to thank our contributors and developers who are building with and building Apprite a lot. So one of the many things that we do is office hours. So basically, office hours is something, since we are a remote company, and almost like there are people in a company from different areas of the world. Even if we have some meetups throughout the world, but we would want all of our community members to at least virtually see and interact with us. So we do have office hours where we chat about Apprite. If anybody has any issues, they directly get that solved on call. We also do a special thing called office hours exclusive. So before anybody knows what's going to be out in public, these people who tune in to office hours, they get to know. So office hours is one thing that we. Other than that, we also do something called Community Recognition Award, and throughout the month, we see people who have been active. They have either been supporting others, or beginners who have been using Apprite, or they have been sharing memes, or they have been helping us with some GitHub issues. So we have different categories, and we reward our community members. Like we love swags at Apprite, and we give them to these people who are contributing to Apprite. And we also listened a lot to feedback. So it has happened in the past that some of the features which were in pipeline for release, it changed because our community members wanted other features to come up. So I guess at Apprite, our major role for community is to hear them, or to gather the feedback that they have, and then we transfer it to our engineering team and make sure that the developer experience is good. So I know it was a long drawn answer, but I'm very passionate about the community, so I can go on and on. But in a long, short way, that's what we do for the community at Apprite.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So for the aspiring students and our watchers, what technical skills and soft skills do you consider are essential in a devrel or a developer advocate roles?
Sure. So I would say that I am not an expert yet in the field, because I still consider myself as a beginner, and I would say that the requirements again, it changes from one company to other, because I mentioned that what you're expected to do in this role, it might change from companies or products. But first thing that they look is you have had some amount of software development experience, since a major part of our role is interacting with developers, understanding their pain points, and then working on those, either to improve developer experience of our products, or to write technical content and documentation and all of these. So the first thing that they look for is technical expertise, and the language can differ. It can be anything. It can be PHP in some company, it can be Python in some company, it can be JavaScript or anything, but they do look for technical expertise. If you have software development experience prior, that's a very good add-on. And next, what we also see is content creation. And by content creation, what we mean is how well you can explain difficult technologies. So if we generally go through blogs, or if somebody is a video creator, so we go through the videos and see what are the videos they have created in the past, how well they explain a tough technical concept in easy way. So content creation is again a part, because if every software that you have probably used, you'll see that there is a technical documentation. And in most companies, especially in developer tool or companies where developers are a main focus, those documentations are written by developer advocates. And the third one is communities. So communities, even if you are an attendee in some community, I think that is good enough. What we tend to see is what is your thought about communities, and you are not required to have strategic, because this role, it also grows up to the role of program manager if somebody wants to in the future. So this is not necessary skill, but in sometimes it may happen that in startups they may look towards your community building skills, or what skills you have in not only in building a community but also scaling a community and making sure that the growth is continuous. So I know this might sound like a very vague answer, because there is not a particular roadmap or particular resources that I can give you to become a good developer advocate or to get this role, because it's a continuous learning process. And even if you ask people who have been in this role for years, they'll tell you how they keep learning each day. For example, developer advocacy used to be a bit different before COVID. Then during COVID, it was different. Now, after COVID, it is different, because the dynamics have changed, the market has changed, and many things. There are many factors that, cause or that affect the work that we do. So, here again is a long or short answer to what needs to become a developer.
Yeah. Indeed, you have mentioned very good points, and thanks for answering these questions. So you have said developer advocacy often involves content creation, right? So how do you
Right.
approach content creation, to make it valuable to your developer or community?
So there are many ways to do that, but first what we try to see is what kind of people are reading a documentation. Now, your expertise may differ from mine, my expertise may differ from somebody else, and then the kind of content or documentation or video content that we build, it's built differently for different personas. Okay, so first maybe somebody who is a student, then maybe we have somebody who is a fresher, then maybe somebody who we have as a junior developer, then a mid-level developer, senior developer, principal engineer, sometimes a startup founder or an entrepreneur, and sometimes even non-tech people, because we are Applet, we are a backend service, and it's kind of a low code tool. It's not no code, but a low code tool. So non-tech people are also our audience. So what we try to make sure is that we are finding a balance, and it's not always possible to find the right balance or make an article in such a way that all these kind of personas can relate to it. But what we try is the documentation to be very simple, so that anybody who is learning about AppWrite for the first time can understand and build with it. But for the other blogs that we are writing, like for integrations and all of those, we write a different level of blogs for different personas. For example, we can write a very simple blog like getting started with AppWrite and create a to-do application. If we are building something like that, then we are probably targeting a junior developer or maybe a student. And let's say I am explaining a tough concept, then I'm probably targeting a different person, like a mid-level developer or a senior level developer. So we do consider personas a lot, what kind of people are using AppWrite or what kind of people will be using AppWrite in the future, and then we tailor our content.
Interesting. So according to you, how important is it for a developer advocate to stay updated with the latest technology trends like AI, ChatGPT and all? And how do you personally keep up with them?
I think this topic, like keeping yourself updated with different technologies, is not only for developer markets, but for anybody in general, anybody who is in tech world and who is
Right.
interested in tech, because as you may know, like even every language and frameworks keep changing. And for developer advocates, I'll talk to you from my own experience. Since we build integrations, a lot of time I'm switching between different languages or different frameworks. One day, let's say I'm coding something in JavaScript, the next day I'm doing something in Go. So I need to keep myself updated. And what I do is I read a lot. It's mostly through newsletters, or I follow people on LinkedIn and Twitter who write good threads, or they have at least blogs and all that. And that's how I get to know. And from then, specifically if I'm interested in a topic, like currently since AI is the buzzword, and I used to do some amount of machine learning and AI back in college days, so I have started learning about AI again, and I try out different tools, and I see, and I also post about the different tools on my social media accounts, and I see that how can they help me in my work, and how can they help others in their work as well. So I would say that having at least some knowledge, even if you can hear a term and say, okay, I read it somewhere, or I know what it is, like even if you can relate to it, I think that is good enough. But you don't need to be an expert in every topic. That is absolutely not possible after having a full-time job. But upskilling or being aware of the newer terms and technologies is definitely important for everyone. And then you can find your own niche, and you can say that, okay, I really like AI, or let's say someday if a different framework gets to the rise, and like Rust is also pretty popular right now. So you can say that, okay, Rust is something I really like, so I'll continue and learn more about Rust. You can do that as well. But having some amount of knowledge in almost every topic is good, but it's not very easy.
Yeah, absolutely. Haimantika, developer advocacy often involves public speaking, right? And
Correct.
presenting and giving talks at events. So, how
Yeah.
do you overcome any stage fear, if you had any?
Yes, so this is something that I didn't have a lot because I was used to speaking when I was in my school, but I tend to have some amount of that now because now that I am in the profession, so I know that it's no more a school thing, and I need to be, very accurate with whatever I'm saying, or at least provide, or at least do my own research. So I need to be a bit careful. And plus, when we are presenting in front of a variety of audience. It's not only about the level of expertise of the audience. I'll give you an example. Like there was a conference in Japan where a majority of the speakers there, like the audience there, was native Japanese speakers, and they knew very little to almost a negligible amount of English. So I did deliver my talk in English, but I made sure that I'm taking long pauses or not using any fancy words to make sure that everybody is understanding what I'm speaking. So a lot of times, the fright that I have at this moment is that how to find the good balance with my content, that I'm neither going too beginner level or not going too high level. And also I make sure that whatever I'm speaking, there's something out of my talk that people take out and they're not wasting their time. So my major fear right now is not how well I speak, but how effectively I'm speaking is something that I'm working on. There's a long way to go, and I still watch a lot of videos and look at inspiration from different people on how they speak and deliver their talks, but I'll probably get there someday.
Yeah, and what advice do you have for students who may be nervous about public speaking and talks and all?
Students, okay. So one thing that I did was, before starting to give talks, I used to attend a lot of talks, and I used to take notes because I still find myself old school. Like I like to take notes, be it digital or handwritten, and I see or follow them on what the speakers are doing. Probably somebody who has been speaking or in doing this thing for many years. And also one thing that I used to do was I make sure that I am well practiced. I have things ready quite before the event and not last minute, like we should do with the projects or assignments. But I make sure that I am ready with my content at least a week before, and I have practiced it almost twice or thrice. And then there are some tips and tricks as well. So if you are showing a demo, so a lot of time it happens that demo boards appear, your internet might not work, some package is not working, there's some glitch, even though you have practiced quite well. So what I generally do is I keep a video recorded of my demo so that I can tell people that, okay, this is how it works. I will be showing you the demo, but in case it doesn't, this is how it works. And then I keep links ready as well. So that is something good, that, okay, if my demo didn't work, if I couldn't code and show them how this works, I at least have my GitHub repo, which is open source, and they can go ahead and learn from it, or they can go ahead and fork it and add things to it. So basically what I'll say is attend more events, learn from the best. Second is practice thoroughly. And third, I would say, is to keep your content very simple, not to overcrowd it, and not to add things that you are not very comfortable on. I see a lot of people, like even I used to do that. I used to pick up difficult topics, and then I knew that I don't have the bandwidth to keep myself prepared for this, neither. And also, people are also scared that what if they ask me a question which I don't know about. So make sure that your topic is not too hard, and it's also fine if the people ask you a question and you don't know about certain things. You can just let them know that, okay, I'm not aware of this fact, but I'll go home and let's connect offline, or let's connect on social media and we'll have a chat about this. So that's another tip of how you can tackle questions or any fears that you might have about it. Yeah, pretty much that's some of the tips that I can share with students for if they're speaking for the first time.
Indeed, great points you have mentioned. Thanks. Um, so lastly, what advice do you have for listeners who aspire to become a developer advocate or developer relation, or some roles around that?
So first thing that I would say is that before you jump into this profession, make sure that you have a good idea about what this role is, and a good way to do that is to interact with people who have been in this role for years. Make sure that you're interacting with people who have been in this role for at least 2 years or greater than that, because I believe that personally, to learn something or to get accustomed to a role, you need to have at least 2 years of experience, which is why I consider myself as a fresher as well. And then I would say is you talk to people who are in different companies and not in one company, and then you'll understand what kind of work they're doing in different companies. And I will also say that read more blogs, read more articles, so that you know what the role expects you to do. And also, there has been cases where people join this particular role in a in particular startup or a company, and they say that they are made to do certain things which they are not very comfortable in, or they didn't expect that the role to hold. So read the job description very well. If you have any doubts, you can get it cleared from a senior or somebody you look up to, and say that, hey, this is a role that I am looking forward to. Can you let me know if this is something that you do in your daily job, or if this is what a developer advocate does? I have received such requests in my DM as well. So if anybody is looking forward to that, I can help to some extent on that as well. And a third, what I would say is that to focus on your tech skills a lot, because a major part of our work is with developers and with development. So focusing on tech skills, especially if you are early in your career, is very, very important. So yes, that's all I had for anybody who's looking to join this field.
Any myths you want to burst now about the term developer advocacy?
Okay, so I see a lot of them on the internet, and I'll probably take one of those. So the first thing is you might hear, and also which is why many people want to join this job role, is that, okay, they get to travel a lot. It's like, there's this movie called Zindagi Na Milegi Dobara, and people just be living that life. That is not true. That is not really true. So as a developer advocate, we do visit to conferences either as a speaker or if we are sponsoring that event, and if there is a booth, so we do that as well. And it's not that it happens every month. Like me personally, I have been to only one conference last year, and this year there's only one conference that I've been, and upcoming one. So just 2 conferences this year, another one last year. And when you are going to a conference, it requires a lot of energy because these conferences are almost full day conferences. And so especially if you are going outside India, there is a big visa first that you need to get across. And then there is around 20 plus hours of traveling. And you also need to deal with jet lag. And then finally, you are in the conference, and it may happen that, there's a lot of people you're talking to. So your social energy is completely drained. And when you are talking to people, you also need to keep a note of, because almost every developer advocate, when we come back home, we need to give a detailed report about everything that we did in the conferences. So that is a part of our job. That's a big part of our job. And having that mindset and making sure that you're always in 100% of your energy can be a bit draining. And especially if after you have traveled for so many hours and then you go back again by traveling so many hours. So yes, it's definitely a fun job if you have passion for it, but I wouldn't say that it's always about traveling. So I traveled only once last year and just twice. I will be traveling twice this year. So the rest of the time, and that's again for let's say 3 or 5 days, so basically 1 week, and the rest days in the entire 365 days you are doing some other work. So it's not always about traveling and the fun. Yeah, that's something that I wanted to share.
I got disheartened after listening this.
No, it's absolutely necessary because what happens. And I would like to also say that especially in India, we do face a lot of visa troubles, because for me particularly, to get a visa, I need to travel to a city which is 500 plus kilometers away, and then I need to go, and then visa is a lot of documentation process and everything. You need to wait, and then the anxiety kicks in, because you don't know, okay, if will I get the visa or not, because it has happened about the conference that I talked last year. My visa appeared just 2 days before the main event. So even you need to get into your mental peace that, okay, I'm going somewhere, I need to get ready, I need to keep my family informed. So yes, there's more to it, but I don't mean to scare anybody of this job role. It's absolutely fun. But let's keep in mind that it's not just traveling. It's not just the fun part. You meet a lot of people, you do network with them, but there's some good and bad parts, I would say, in everything.
So you mean if not Zindagi Na Milegi Dobara, then at least Ye Jawani Hai Diwali.
I wouldn't agree on that as well, but I would say that it's still an experience that you are meeting different people. I still found that as a blessing and an experience, and I wouldn't say that it's a struggle. Then people will probably make memes out of me, but it's not a struggle. But I would say it's not as glorious as it may look on social media. So these are some things that people don't often talk about, and I'm glad that I could bring it up here on this podcast.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much again for taking your time out and joining us today for the podcast. And yeah, thank you so much.